everybody, welcome back to part 2 of the gut and fueling series mini series inside of the series that we created here. We are continuing on with our fueling and hydration series. If you haven't checked out the other few episodes, make sure to go back and listen to those, and they really do build on themselves. So if you're joining me in now, then make sure to go back and listen, and also subscribe and like this video if this is something that you found helpful, so that I can make more of this too. So today we are going to be talking about the problems with certain types of sugars and fuel sources, as well as what can happen with intestinal permeability and why endurance athletes are at increased risk. When it comes to fueling, the other thing we really want to know is know your sugars. Okay, so the problem with, and I'm going to highlight one in particular, is maltodextrin. So maltodextrin is used in a lot of fueling products because it is a more complex carbohydrate, so it won't spike your blood sugar as much. So that's great, because we do want to manage our blood sugar well, and it will help you prevent the up and down crash. However, maltodextrin in large amounts, like in gels and liquid fuels and things like that, can cause GI symptoms. It can lead to gas, it can lead to gurgling, it can lead to diarrhea, and it can really also lead to some allergy type symptoms like cramping and skin irritation. So maltodextrin is something you do want to be very careful of, and it can also increase inflammation in the gut. Already, we have so many things that are impacting the gut, and just on race day, on training, stress. All of this, make sure that we do think about what the impact of all of that can have on your gut lining. Things that you might want to consider instead of gels, like I have athletes who, even running, they'll carry a lot of stuff with them, but on the bike, I'll have them consider whole foods, especially if they do triathlons, like rice cakes or power balls or protein bars that are made with nut butter and oats and different types of syrup and honey. These are all different whole food things. First off, you can make at home. You can also use bars and things like that too. They have a wide balance of macronutrients, number one, and then also they don't use maltodextrin, so they're going to be a little bit easier for your GI tract, and it also will balance out your use of gels too. So what I have athletes do is I have them practice all of this stuff in training. Also, then one thing that works really well for them is to just use the gels maybe when they're out running, because it's a little less heavy to carry and awkward. But then use those, especially if you're a triathlete, and then use those foods when you're on the bike. However, if gels of any type tend to cause gas, cramping, diarrhea, you do really want to be careful of your use of those. But that doesn't mean that you don't fuel, right? That's the whole point, is you've got to figure out then what works for you. Okay, the next part of this here that I wanted to cover today is some gels and liquid carbohydrates that can work really well for people. Also can dump a little too much carbohydrate into the gut without using enough, especially when you don't have enough water in there. What can happen then is, because all of this carbohydrate gets quickly and massively dumped into the gut, into the stomach, it can slow the emptying of the stomach. It's slowed gastric emptying. What that means is that the stomach then is going to hold on to that for a lot longer. This has some pretty significant impacts. Number one, this can mean that the water that should be out in your muscles and your blood, helping to cool you down, can end up and also keeping you hydrated, can then end up back into the stomach. That's a pretty significant problem, and this is usually where, number one, it can lead to dehydration faster, but number two, it can also mean that you're at risk of some GI symptoms. Could be nausea, could be diarrhea, could be difficulty holding food down. There's a lot of things there. So we do want to be a little bit careful of maltodextrin. And then lastly, talking about leaky gut and intestinal permeability and hypoxic conditions. So what happens in endurance sports when athletes are training for these big sports? Leaky gut is something called intestinal permeability, and it's when this can happen for athletes when they're under they have high oxidative stress and under a lot of load, but also can happen in endurance races, and will happen to most, if not all, endurance athletes as they go through. What can happen then too is, because of this leaky gut, it can release something called lipopolysaccharides into the bloodstream, which can lead to a lot of inflammation. Intestinal permeability also happens because after about 90 minutes, the GI tract, or it actually can happen a little bit sooner than that too. But all of that blood and oxygen has gone out to the muscles and away from the gut, which leads to very hypoxic conditions and then can lead to some leaky gut. So one of the ways that we can balance this out is we can make sure that you have protein, like branched chain amino acids or protein in your food, that can then help to mitigate some of that pull of protein from the GI tract lining and can keep that intestinal permeability a little bit more locked up for longer. Also, intestinal permeability and some of the risks that are associated with this can be a cause for increased inflammation, immune dysregulation in athletes, as well as gut pain, injuries, and like a lot more. So if you're like a lot of athletes that I work with, and you're excited about your race and the training to become an Ironman and finish your ultra marathon or all of those things, or even if you're a seasoned athlete, but you may have some doubt that you can get your fueling and hydration right. Yeah. And again, if you are a seasoned athlete, but are really wanting to work on your fueling and hydration plan because you've realized how important it is, so that it really supports your energy, your training, and your health, I've got you covered. So if you want to learn more, head to drkirsten.com/finishstrong. I hope that you'll join my email list because you want to be there, because I share a lot of information that I don't share anywhere else. And it is and that really is as a thank you for being there and for opening and reading my emails. I always am so grateful for everyone who's there. And you'll also get a free guide too, when you join. If you go to drkirsten.com/finishstrong, there's lots of helpful tips and info in there too. It's just as a thank you for wanting to be on my list. The other thing you can do too is you can head to drkirsten.com and find all of the courses and mini courses that are available if you'd like to design, to test, to be able to adjust and implement your fueling and hydration protocol and make it ideal for you. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Take care.